Hello, boys and girls. Our reading lesson for today is to read two books and then talk about the ways the books are the same and the way the books are different. I have two books here. I have a book about frogs and a book about butterflies. Do you think frogs and butterflies can have anything that are alike? We're going to have to read our books and find out. Today, I'm just going to read the book Frogs. And then the next reading lesson, I'm going to read the book Butterflies, and then we're going to compare them, talking about how they are alike and how they're different. So listen very carefully to my book about frogs, because we need to remember it for our next lesson when we compare frogs and butterflies. Do you think this is a fiction or a nonfiction book? What do you think? What do you see on the front? Is that just a drawing or is that a photograph? Let's look inside. Do you see drawings or do you see photographs? This is going to be a nonfiction book. It's going to give us information about frogs. We're going to learn lots of things that you don't know about frogs today. And we're going to see some real pictures of frogs. So this is a nonfiction book. I like that picture. It looks like he's got on swimmies on his arms, doesn't he? That's what that picture reminded me of. Explore my world, frogs. There's a frog, and look at it. It's got red eyes. Look, a frog up in a tree. A tiny tree frog balances on a branch. Tree frogs tiptoe on twigs and leap onto leaves. Sticky toe tips help frogs climb and cling. Oh, look at that big fat frog. Down by a stream, a big bullfrog snuggles into squishy, mushy mud. Squelch. You ever heard a frog do that at night before? In a sandy desert, a spade-foot toad digs with shovel-like back feet, burrowing underground. Why do you think a frog would need to burrow underground in the desert? I bet you that keeps it cool, doesn't it? It gets very hot in the desert during the day, and it gets cool in the desert at night. Look at that frog jumping. Sploosh! Out in a pond, a leggy leopard frog launches off a lily pad. It arches through the air and splashes into the water. Look at that frog splashing into the water. Home sweet home. Frogs lived almost everywhere on Earth except Antarctica. We learned about Antarctica this year, and not many things can live there. It's so cold. You can find them on mountaintops, in forests, creeks and rivers, ponds and lakes, fields, parks, gardens, and deserts. This frog right here is a Pac-Man frog. Oh my goodness, it's in South America. This is a spade-foot toad, and it lives in North America. An Australian green tree frog in Australia. This is Fleischmann's glass frog from Central America. It looks like it's got very clear where you can see through it like glass. This frog is a flaming poison dart frog. Oh my goodness. That's from Central and South America. This is a Vietnamese mossy frog, and it's from Southeast Asia. And a Wallace flying frog from Southeast Asia. Looks like that frog's jumping really high. I get that's why they call it a flying frog. And look, if you look between its feet, it's got webbed feet. It looks kind of like bat wings, doesn't it? I bet that's why it can fly. Frogs come in many different colors. Look at that pretty frog. They can be, and sizes. They can be tiny, or they can be huge. Frogs can be bumpy. Frogs can be smooth. Some frogs are even see-through. Look, you can see right into the inside of that frog. Most mother frogs lay eggs in or near water. There's the mother frog. She's laying some eggs near the water. Pop! When the eggs hatch, out pop tiny tadpoles. They live underwater and eat tiny plants. They look like fish, but they are wiggly, wiggly baby frogs, also known as pollywogs. Looks what happens to the tadpole next. Tadpoles start out with chubby, stubby bodies and long, flat tails. But as a tadpole grows, its body changes. It sprouts legs for swimming and hopping. Its tail gets smaller and smaller. Its eyes get bulgier and bulgier. Its mouth gets wider and wider. Finally, the tadpole looks like a frog. Out of the water it crawls. Now, the young frog is ready to explore its new world and eat. What do you think it's getting ready to eat? Its tongue's coming out there to grab something, isn't it? Gulp! This frog loves to eat bugs. It shoots out its sticky tongue to snap up a passing insect, pulls the prey into its mouth, and then swallows it whole. Wow. Froggy feasts. Frogs are not fussy eaters. They will eat just about anything that moves, as long as it can fit into their mouth. Frogs chow down on insects, spiders, worms, slugs, and snails. Some large frogs also dine on mice. I've never heard of a frog eating a mouse before. Poor little mouse. And even other frogs. Well, this says, how far can you stick out your tongue? Can you stick it out as far as that frog? I know I can't. Bugs and caterpillars are fine food for frogs. Do you think a worm tastes yummy or yucky? Ooh, I think it would be yucky, but look at that frog. He's eating that big old juicy worm. This frog just nabbed a delicious dragonfly. This mouse better watch out for big hungry frogs. How would you like lizards for lunch and spiders for supper? Is that what you want for supper tonight? Some lizards for lunch and spiders for supper? I don't think I would like that. Frogs eat all kinds of animals, and all kinds of animals eat frogs. There's this bird here, and look, there's this little frog right there swimming in the water, and I bet you that bird's going to try to come down and eat it. Birds and bats, snakes and rats, raccoons, fish, lizards, crocodiles, and even bears all gobble up frogs. Look at that poor little frog. He's right there in that crocodile's mouth. Look at his little eye. He's wanting to get out, isn't he? How do frogs survive? Some hide by blending into the background. Some have brilliant colors that warn hungry hunters, "Don't eat me." These brightly hued frogs have poison in their skin. This right here, that looked like that dart frog, that poison dart frog, doesn't it? Jump frog. A frog on the ground can leap to safety. And in a treetop, a gliding frog spreads its toes wide, jumps off a branch, and glides. Happy landing. All in the family. Don't let toads fool you. Despite their name, toads are a kind of frog, but that doesn't mean frogs and toads are exactly alike. Frogs live most of their lives around water. Toads can be found in drier places, even in deserts. Here are some ways that frogs and toads are different and the same. Now that was what we're supposed to be doing today, finding out between our books something that's different and the same. But we're going to do it looking at our frogs and our toads. So here is our frog and here's our toad. All right, so a toad has dry, bumpy skin. What other things feel bumpy? And then a frog has moist, smooth skin. What does your skin feel like? Does it feel moist and smooth, or does it feel dry and bumpy? I hope it feels moist and smooth. No tail? No tail. That's something that's the same, isn't it? The frog has long, strong legs for jumping and leaping. Can you leap like a frog? I bet you could try. And this one says that the toad has short legs, just right for walking or short hops. Can you make short hops like a toad? So that would be something that would be different. The toad has short legs. The frog has long legs. A frog has 5 toes on its hind legs, and a toad has 5 toes on its hind legs. So on its back legs, they both have 5. That'd be something that would be the same. But on the front, a frog only has 4 toes on its front legs. And a toad only has 4 toes on its front legs. How many fingers and toes do you have? Do you have 5 on the back and 4 on the front? Nope, you're not a frog or a toad then, are you? So that's something they have the same. They both have 4 toes on the front. A toad has no teeth, but guess what? A frog has teeth in its upper jaw. So that's something that's different. A toad has no teeth, but a frog has teeth on its upper jaw. A frog has bulging eyes. Can you make your eyes look really big like a frog? Well, they didn't say anything about the eyes being big or small, but they say on a toad has poison glands behind each eye. Well, I sure didn't know toads had poison glands. I'm going to be a whole lot more careful when I touch toads from now on. So that would be something that would be different. Frogs don't look like they have poison glands, and a toad does. Sing like a frog. Even when you can't see frogs, you can often hear them singing. Some frogs puff out their throats like balloons to make sound. Each type of frog has its own special call. Some are so loud they can be heard 1 mile away. Can you imagine a frog making a sound that we could hear a mile away? Here are some frog calls. Can you make these froggy sounds? All right, let's see if you can. A bullfrog says, juggarum, juggarum. A spring peeper says, peep, peep, peep. A red-eyed tree frog says, chop, chop, chop. A conqui frog says, cookie. A gray tree frog says, trill. And a wood frog says, quack, quack, quack. I would think that wood frog would be a duck if it says quack, quack, quack. So there they are. Look real close so you can make some of those sounds. Sound like frogs. And that is the end. My book was a very good book about frogs, and I have written down a few things that I thought were some key details about our book that we could write about frogs. Tomorrow, remember, we're going to be reading about butterflies, and I'll be writing down some key details about that one, and then we will compare. But this is what I have that I wrote down about my frogs. There, see if we can fix it for you. There we go. So a frog has many different colors. So frogs can be many different colors. Frogs are eaten by many animals. Frogs hide by blending. They kind of camouflage themselves and they hide by blending. Their colors scare away enemies. Remember they say, don't eat me, I'm poison. The mother frog lays her eggs near the water. And when the egg hatches, it turns into a tadpole, doesn't it? Then the tadpole grows into a frog. Frogs eat bugs, worms, slugs, snails, spiders, mice, even other frogs. And a frog can jump. Tomorrow, after we read our butterfly book, we'll write things about butterflies over there. And then we're going to fill in this diagram. This is called a Venn diagram. A Venn diagram lets you put things about one thing, which is a frog, we're going to use tomorrow, on one side, and another thing, which we're going to use for the butterfly on the other. These are things that will be different about a frog and a butterfly. And these things that I'm going to put in the middle are going to be the same things that frogs and butterflies both have. So, be thinking about our frog, and don't forget some of the things we learned about frogs. And tomorrow, we're going to be thinking about a butterfly. And then I want you to help me as we put them in our Venn diagram. We'll see you next time, boys and girls. Have fun reading tonight, or today, whenever you read. Bye.